Okay, Google. Go home.
Okay. Please log in through the Google Home app.
It's air quality for you. Okay, Google. Go home.
Please log in through the Google Home app.
Tells you what the air quality is in Kansas City today. They say it's rated unhealthy. Outside air. Okay, Google. What's the weather outside?
Currently in Raytown, it's 64 degrees and clear. Today, it'll be partly cloudy, with a forecasted high of 76 and a low of 62.
Okay, Google. Good morning.
Please log in through the Google Home app. The time is 4:34 a.m. Currently in Raytown, it's 64 degrees and clear. Today, it'll be partly cloudy, with a forecasted high of 76 and a low of 62. Here's a joke to start your morning. What's the most musical part of a turkey? The drumsticks. No tasks for today. Have a great day. Here's the latest news from AccuWeather Daily at midnight today.
From AccuWeather.com, this is AccuWeather Daily, a brief host-read article. It's weather news in a nutshell.
Abercrombie denim is everything right now. Denim should feel like this. Confident, easy, like your butt has never looked better. If you didn't know, Abercrombie's Curve Love denim went viral in 2019 for eliminating waist gap, and it's still a game changer. Between that and their classic fits with a straighter line from waist to hip, the perfect denim does exist. Shop Abercrombie denim in the app, online, and in store.
The period from late July to the start of August is typically quiet compared to what often transpires in the tropics as August progresses into September. Waters continue to warm and are still a few weeks away from peak levels. However, in most areas from the coast of Africa to the surrounding Gulf and southwestern Atlantic, water temperatures are at or above the critical 80-degree level that supports tropical development. In recent weeks, there have been vast areas of dry air and dust pushing westward from the Sahara Desert in Africa. Disruptive breezes have overlapped and extended into more tranquil wind zones for the most part. Along the southeastern U.S. coast, there have been a few attempts at tropical development in recent weeks following Tropical Storm Chantal. The third tropical storm of the season moved ashore in North Carolina around the Independence Day holiday with torrential rain and flooding. However, no named storm has developed since. AccuWeather lead hurricane expert Alex De Silva said that the AccuWeather team we'll be watching the zone from northeast of Florida to just off the Carolina coast for tropical development in the next few days. Initially, this area, as well as farther west over the interior of the Carolinas, Georgia, northern Florida, and southern Alabama, will be quite active in terms of drenching showers and gusty thunderstorms from this weekend to early next week. This will be due to the presence of Atlantic and Gulf moisture, of course, but also due to a front that will dip southward and stall nearby. Fronts that stall near the warm waters of the southwestern Atlantic sometimes can slowly brew a tropical storm, or a storm that forms along the front and becomes tropical over time. Now, the latter tends to have much greater wind potential than a non-tropical storm and can go on to become a powerful hurricane. Steering breezes would likely guide that storm farther away from the U.S. later next week, but possibly near Bermuda, so the concern does not end with the U.S. Regardless, tropical moisture that interacts with the stalled front and low pressure associated with a brewing storm is likely to unleash torrential downpours along the southern Atlantic coast to the northeastern Gulf Coast from this weekend to early next week. In areas that receive these downpours repeatedly day after day, the threat for flash flooding will grow and increase. AccuWeather's senior meteorologist Dan Pitanowski said an area of particular concern could be southeastern Georgia and coastal South Carolina, where these downpours may be quite persistent. A general 4 to 8 inches of rain could fall over this area over the course of several days, causing street and highway flooding in low-lying areas around cities such as Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina. The AccuWeather local storm max rainfall is a whopping 12 inches with this setup. Now, those with beach plans should be mindful of locally rough surf, thunderstorm downpours, and the risk of brief tornadoes and waterspouts. Pitanowski warned that travel could be slow through the weekend on major roadways, such as Interstates 10, 20, 75, and 95, and those with vacation plans to head to beaches such as Hilton Head, North Carolina, St. Simon's Island, Georgia, places in between, may face a soggy weekend. Thousands of miles to the southeast is a loose group of clouds and showers heading toward the Lesser Antilles. Now, this is associated with what meteorologists call a tropical wave, a weak, westward-moving area of low pressure. Under the right conditions with a moist atmosphere and low wind shear, tropical waves can evolve into full-fledged tropical rainstorms, tropical storms, and hurricanes. While there is no longer an immediate risk for tropical development with this tropical wave, it may bring some robust downpours and thunderstorms from the Leeward Islands to Puerto Rico early next week. As August progresses, tropical waves moving westward from Africa represent the backbone of the hurricane season, which lasts through September and into the first part of October. That's all for now. You can find more regional forecasts and science-based articles at AccuWeather.com. And for your local forecast at your fingertips, download the AccuWeather app. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be safe. I'll be back tomorrow with more from AccuWeather.
From NPR News Now at 4 a.m. today.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Dave Mattingly. President Trump's Mideast envoy, Steve Witkoff, remains in the region following talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. As NPR's Aya Betrawi reports, Witkoff is hoping to make progress toward another ceasefire between Israel and Hamas and to address the spread of starvation in Gaza.
Deaths from hunger have climbed this month in Gaza, and the past 24 hours marked one of the deadliest in the war for people trying to seek aid. Gaza's health ministry says more than 90 people were killed and 600 wounded while trying to get food, many of them shot dead trying to reach aid trucks entering Gaza near Israeli troops. The White House says Witkoff and U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee will meet with Palestinians in Gaza and visit a food distribution site run by U.S. contractors there. The UN says hundreds of people have been killed by Israeli forces trying to reach food at these sites since late May, and it's calling for much more aid to flood Gaza to be distributed through them and other aid agencies. Aya Betrawi, NPR News.
President Trump has signed an executive order that imposes new tariffs on dozens of countries beginning August 7th. Tariffs on U.S. imports from Canada are being raised from 25% to 35% beginning today. Trump accuses the Canadian government of being uncooperative on helping to stop the flow of illegal drugs into the U.S. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is critical of the president, saying it'll be American consumers who ultimately pay the levies.
Trump tariff is a trade war on the American people.
The president also announced a 90-day negotiating period on tariffs with Mexico. Investigators from the New York City Police Department are in Nevada as they continue their probe into this week's deadly shooting at a Midtown Manhattan high-rise office building. The 27-year-old gunman was from Las Vegas. Police say he shot and killed 4 people and critically wounded a 5th person before taking his own life. NPR's Martin Costi has more on the investigation.
The New York Police Department says the man acquired the AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle from an associate in Nevada. It was a private transaction, but under Nevada law, it still would have required a background check. Background checks don't seem to have been an impediment for the man, who also reportedly purchased a revolver from a store in June, and he had a concealed carry permit. This is despite the fact that he had mental health-related encounters with police in Nevada in recent years, and investigators have found antipsychotic medication in his apartment. Nevada does have a red flag law under which a judge may temporarily remove firearms from someone who's deemed a threat, but there's no known record of police requesting such a court order in this case. Martin Costi, NPR News.
This is NPR News from Washington. A federal judge in California is extending temporary protected status for roughly 60,000 people from Central America and South Asia who are in the U.S. The vast majority, about 51,000, are from Honduras. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem had ordered the protections to be ended after determining they were no longer warranted based on current conditions in the affected countries. Apple is reporting quarterly earnings that beat Wall Street forecasts. NPR's John Ruwitch says the company is reporting its best quarter for revenue because of stronger sales of iPhones.
Apple CEO Tim Cook said revenue in the quarter hit a record after the company saw double-digit growth in iPhone and Mac sales and services worldwide. Revenue was up 10% from the same quarter last year, and iPhone sales leapt more than 13% year-on-year. Expected tariffs on imports were part of the story. Chief Financial Officer Kevin Parekh was quoted in the Financial Times and Wall Street Journal as saying demand was driven in part by the coming tariffs as customers snagged new iPhones before prices go up. President Trump has threatened to impose a 25% tariff on iPhones unless Apple makes them in the United States. CEO Tim Cook said Apple was working to optimize supply chains and would ultimately be doing more manufacturing here in the U.S. John Ruwitch, NPR News.
The latest numbers on employment in the U.S. are due out this morning. Economists expect the Labor Department to report a slowdown in hiring for the month of July as compared to June, when employers added 147,000 jobs. I'm Dave Mattingly, NPR News in Washington.
From Fox News at 3:06 a.m. today.
A U.S. visit to Gaza. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee are getting a first-hand look at the humanitarian crisis in Gaza today before the White House announces a new humanitarian plan.
With the war grinding on, images of suffering Palestinians have circulated around the world, prompting countries like the UK, France, and Canada to announce intentions to recognize a Palestinian state.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv. The Hamas-run Gaza Ministry of Health says 111 people were killed over the past day, 91 of them while seeking aid. Earlier, Witkoff met with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to discuss ways to end the war. Back in Washington, President Trump signed an executive order yesterday revealing tariffs for nearly 70 countries without trade deals with the U.S., and those tariffs range from 10 to 41%. He also extended the start date to August 7th.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says tailor-made tariff agreements were struck with several major U.S. trading partners, including the EU, UK, South Korea, and Japan. Economists have warned increased costs to importers could drive up consumer prices, a concern administration officials say is not bearing out with tariffs already imposed. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
For Canada, the president's imposing an immediate 35% tax on goods that don't comply with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. Dangerous flash flooding and water rescues took place along the I-95 corridor on the East Coast, with a child swept away by the dangerous currents in Mount Airy, Maryland.
It led to a massive response, but unfortunately, by the time they were able to get to the young boy, he didn't make it and succumbed to his injuries.
Fox Weather's Katie Byrne. New York and New Jersey issued states of emergencies ahead of the storm, and FlightAware says American Airlines canceled more than 1,800 flights yesterday. America's listening to Fox News.
You set the table, put on a playlist, even made the lasagna from scratch, and now you're wearing it. OxiClean Max Force Spray tackles tough, set-in stains the first time. Adulting is hard. Fighting stains shouldn't be. OxiClean Max Force. It's not clean unless it's OxiClean.
As President Trump slaps dozens of countries with tariffs, the Federal Appeals Court in Washington, D.C. heard arguments about how he enacted them.
Justice Department Attorney Brett Shumate defended President Trump's use of the International Economic Emergency Powers Act to enact many of his tariffs. The judges pushed back. One questioned if a growing trade deficit really amounts to an emergency.
Essentially, it's reached a tipping point, right? It's affecting our military readiness. It's affecting our domestic manufacturing capabilities. So, yes, absolutely.
Attorney Neil Katyal, who argued for the business that sued the Trump administration, told the judges.
They are asserting as sweeping a power as one imaginable with, as Chief Judge Moore pointed out, no judicial limits.
He said if the government were to have the kind of tariff power the administration is trying to assert here, Congress would have already given it. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Federal prosecutors in New York are urging a judge to reject this week's renewed request for bail from music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, and they say nothing has changed since his conviction last month on prostitution-related charges to warrant a fresh look. Combs is set for sentencing on October 3rd. Air quality alerts were issued for Wisconsin.
You could feel it, you could smell it, you could even see it along the city skyline. Smoke from Canadian wildfires drifting over the border tanked the air quality for cities up and down Wisconsin. At one point, Swiss-based IQ Air had Beloit, Milwaukee, and Green Bay as part of the top 10 cities with the worst air quality in the nation. The Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center shows it's been another devastating year for fires. More than 15 million acres have already burned, and of the 640 plus active fires there, a quarter of them are burning out of control.
Sam Kramer with Fox 6 Milwaukee. And the CDC says the number of American kindergartners getting vaccinations declined again last year, while the share of children with exemptions rose to an all-time high. I'm Carmen Roberts. This is Fox News.
Hey, I'm Trey Gowdy, host of the Trey Gowdy podcast. I hope you will join me every Tuesday and Thursday as we navigate life together and hopefully find ourselves a little bit better on the other side.
Listen and follow now at foxnewspodcast.com.
From NPR Technology at 3:20 a.m. yesterday.
You ever heard of a zero-click search? I hadn't, so I Googled it, and I got an answer without having to click on the search results. An answer generated by AI. That is a zero-click search. For the media whose journalists write the articles that power AI summaries, the lack of clicks is a disaster. Here's NPR's Bobby Allen.
You've probably seen AI overviews. It's the text that pops up in the top spot of a Google search. It's an AI summary of information. When it became part of Google search last year, news publishers got really worried people would stop visiting websites. Without visits, advertisers would disappear and sites would collapse. But it is convenient.
I totally understand the temptation. Why click on a bunch of sources if you can just get a summary?
That's Claudia Jazwinska. She researches how AI is upending the news industry at Columbia University, and even she has trouble resisting. To help, she's installed a browser extension that blocks AI overview from appearing at all when she's Googling on her computer. But she says it's not so easy for online news publishers.
Publishers are kind of in a bind because if you want to opt out of AI overviews, you opt out of Google search entirely.
She says online publishers see this as a Faustian bargain. Yes, they are losing traffic and money by being summarized by AI, but without Google at all, the situation is even more dire. Numbers by the analytics firm SimilarWeb show that HuffPost's traffic has dropped by half. Business Insider saw the same dip, which the company says led to them laying off 21% of their staff in May.
Fox Media's most visited homepage is The Verge, a tech news site. Publisher Helen Havlak says AI is also coming for its traffic.
So The Verge's Google traffic has been declining, and I would say a lot of that decline has lined up pretty clearly with the rise of AI overviews.
Where is this all leading? Publishers fear a time when Google stops sending traffic at all to websites. It's the latest threat to the already struggling world of online publishing and journalism. The Verge is responding by doubling down on podcasts, newsletters, and making its website more like social media. You can follow specific writers and topics, and it now has a short-form feed that mimics an infinite news scroll.
One answer is that publishers need to behave more like platforms in and of themselves and play more platform games.
But before you can keep people on your site, you need to get them there. A growing body of research indicates that's becoming difficult. A recent Pew study found that when people see an AI overview, they're half as likely to ever click a link from Google. And after people see an AI overview answer, they're more likely to end their browsing sessions. Havlak is seeing this.
Extinction level event is already here, and a bunch of small publishers have already gone out of business.
Google said the methodology of the new Pew study is flawed and said it continues to send billions of clicks to websites every single day. The company claims when someone does click on a link from AI Overview, it's a more quality link, meaning they'll stick around for longer. Havlak, for one, says her site's internal data hasn't backed that up. Researcher Jaswinska says AI Overview is going to force news websites to adapt, but AI companies are striking licensing deals with publishers because AI tools summarizing the news need real human reporters.
News content is of great demand by AI companies, and that won't go away. Chatbots cannot report. That's something that journalists can do, and robots cannot.
But what's also true is that there's so much AI content online right now that people are seeing AI Overview sometimes summarize other AI summaries. Maybe if that becomes the norm, clicking links will become cool again. Bobby Allen, NPR News.
From ESPN Radio at 1:16 p.m. yesterday.
ESPN Radio Sports Beat with Freddie Coleman.
There's no doubt about Shohei Ohtani being that great two-way player for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And yeah, he's had his struggles here and there, but there is no doubt that he's the best player in Major League Baseball. But do the Dodgers, the Hollywood Swingers, need to put a pause on him being a two-way dude, at least for 2025? Here's why I'm saying that. Because Shohei Ohtani has that power in that organization. They're going to do what he wants them to do or what he tells them to do regarding him. But the pitching, I know he's probably good at it, but he's not great at it. And is it worth having that take away from how prodigious he's been with that stick in the line for Los Angeles Dodgers, especially when everybody else is chasing them for that number one seed, to be that top team? The Padres, they're not fooling around. The Phillies, the Mets, the Cubs, the Brewers, they all believe that the Dodgers can't get got. And if Shohei Ohtani is trying to be a two-way player and it compromises the bat that they're going to need, then maybe, just maybe, the Dodgers need to put a pin in that and take pause for the cause. You're going to hear about plenty of MVP candidates, whether it's the American League or the National League. And believe me, Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh of the Yankees and the Seattle Mariners on one side. And on the other side, more than likely, even though Shohei Ohtani has not been the Shohei we're used to seeing with the Dodgers, he could be the odds-on favorite. But there's one dude that, in my opinion, the season in right now would be the MVP of the National League. And that guy's Kyle Schwarber of the Philadelphia Phillies. Don't just look at, well, Freddie needs a bat for a higher batting average. That's not his deal. But the 37 home runs, the 86 RBIs, the fact that anytime something good is going on, he's always in the middle of that for the fighting Phils in Philadelphia. He may not be the best of the best. Hell, he may not even be the best player in his own team. Many people believe that's Bryce Harper, who has the most talent. But this year, I don't believe anybody's been more valuable to their baseball team and their success than Kyle Schwarber. If the Phillies win the NL East, he should win the MVP because Lord knows his value goes a lot more than the numbers in Philadelphia. For the ESPN Radio Sports Beat, I'm Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio. It's Freddie and Harry.
From ABC News Update at 4:04 a.m. today.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. President Trump signing an executive order that would impose new tariffs on large groups of U.S. trading partners to go into effect 7 days from today, which is the August 1st deadline to reach other trade deals. The White House says it is a new system of trade. Navy Federal Credit Union chief economist Heather Long says what it could amount to is a price hike for everyday Americans.
A lot of companies are trying to hide these price increases for consumers by putting them in just a little bit at a time.
They call it sneakflation. The president also planning to break ground in September on a new $200 million White House ballroom, complete with crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and gold trim. Severe storms and flash flooding across the Northeast overnight, upsetting the evening commute and flooding the New York City subway system again. A teacher who police say is admitted to stabbing a mom and dad to death on a hiking trail in Arkansas makes his first appearance today. The parents protecting their young daughters who were with them but not hurt. This is ABC News.
Growing your e-commerce business comes with plenty of hurdles, but shipping shouldn't be one of them. Well, here's some good news. Powerful e-commerce shipping software called ShipExcel from Pitney Bowes. With ShipExcel, you can generate discounted shipping labels for both online and offline orders. That saves time and money, with everything right at your fingertips. Start your free trial of ShipExcel from Pitney Bowes today. From AP Radio News Updates at 4 a.m. today.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. U.S. tariffs on imports from many countries have now been set to go into effect in 7 days. President Trump signed an order pushing back these tariffs as the White House announced new trade deals. Meanwhile, Trump raised the tariff on imports from Canada from 25% to 35%. The administration says Canada has not done enough to stop illegal drugs, human traffickers, and other criminals. AP correspondent Mike Hempen reports areas of the Northeast are recovering from strong rainstorms that lashed the East Coast Thursday.
Heavy rain has pummeled the East Coast, sparking flash flooding in some areas. The rain prompted emergency rescues of motorists trapped in deep water and delayed flights throughout the region. National Weather Service meteorologist William Churchill says Long Island was one of the areas that received several inches of rain within an hour or two.
We saw some totals of 3-inch plus, maybe as much as 5 or 6 inches locally, as well as into parts of southern New Jersey. And as you stated before, as well into that includes some portions of the Philadelphia metro into Delaware.
Flash flooding briefly closed sections of major highways in New York and flooded train stations throughout the metropolitan region. The National Weather Service says the heavy rain in the Northeast should be over. I'm Mike Hempen.
And U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff is set to inspect food distribution in Gaza today. On Thursday, Gaza's health ministry said dozens of Palestinians were killed and hundreds wounded in the previous 24 hours while they were trying to get aid. The Israeli military said troops fired warning shots when Palestinians surrounded aid trucks. And in El Salvador, the government has approved constitutional changes that will now allow indefinite presidential re-election and extends presidential terms to 6 years. This is AP News. The NFL paid tribute to the victims of a shooting outside of its headquarters before the first game of the 2025 season.
The NFL season kicked off at the annual Hall of Fame game with a moment of silence for the 4 people killed earlier this week by a shooter who was targeting league headquarters in New York. The gunman also wounded a league employee in the shooting Monday night. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell told NBC he visited the employee for an hour on Wednesday and said he was improving. There was increased security Thursday night around Tom Benson Stadium, where Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Antonio Gates, and Sterling Sharp will be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame on Saturday. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
Justin Timberlake says he's been diagnosed with Lyme disease. He shared the news in a post on Instagram saying he had considered ending his tour when diagnosed, but was glad he kept going. More on this and other stories at apnews.com. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
From Reuters TV, U.S. at 5:16 a.m. yesterday.
Today, Trump issues a blitz of tariff announcements. Gazans struggle to get aid as Canada says it will recognize a Palestinian state. And why U.S. companies are shedding CEOs at a fast pace. It's Thursday, July 31st. This is Reuters World News, bringing you everything you need to know from the front lines in 10 minutes, every weekday. I'm Carmel Crimmins in Dublin.
The Nordstrom Anniversary Sale is on now. Shop new arrivals on sale for a limited time from Madewell, Bobbi Brown, New Balance, and more. You'll find tons of deals under $100 on summer-ready fits. plus beauty exclusives from your favorite brands. Nordstrom makes shopping easy in stores at Nordstrom.com and on their app. Hurry, prices go up August 4th.
US President Donald Trump is unleashing a flurry of trade surprises ahead of a self-imposed Friday deadline. The president announcing tariffs of 15% on imports from South Korea and 50% on most Brazilian goods. He shocked copper markets by sparing the most widely traded forms of the metal from a new 50% import tax. That hurt investors betting on higher prices, sending the US copper market plunging. And there was a nasty surprise for India. A painful 25% levy and an unspecified penalty that Trump says is partly due to India buying Russian arms and oil. But he's leaving the door open to last-minute changes.
We're talking to India now. We'll see what happens. It doesn't matter too much whether we have a deal or whether we charge them a certain tariff. But you'll know at the end of this week.
Aftab Ahmed is in New Delhi. Aftab, how is this all being received in India?
The immediate reaction is political right now. India's opposition parties are calling this a diplomatic failure for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I remember Narendra Modi had touted himself as the closest friend that Donald Trump had, and the opposition is challenging that. But there is a lot to unpack even for the Indian government, right? India is still trying to understand what unspecified penalties announced by Trump means, and also his comments on India buying oil and arms from Russia.
What's the government's plan now?
The Indian government's game plan seems to be that it is still on the negotiating table with the United States. They are ignoring some of the tough comments that Donald Trump has made about how India is buying oil from Russia, and both of those economies, Trump says, can die together. India still wants a deal, but without giving up its farm and dairy sectors, which are politically very important for Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
As for reaching a deal with Canada before the August 1st deadline, President Trump says it's now become harder. This follows Prime Minister Mark Carney's decision to recognise Palestinian statehood at the UN General Assembly in September.
The deepening suffering of civilians leaves no room for delay in coordinated international action to support peace, security, and the dignity of human life.
Carney says the planned recognition was based on repeated assurances from the Palestinian Authority that it's willing to hold general elections in 2026, in which Hamas can play no part. The US and Israel both reject Canada's move. France and Britain have made similar announcements. The US and Canada are currently negotiating a trade deal. The deadline is tomorrow, Friday, August 1st. Carney says the tariff negotiations are ongoing and a deal may not be reached by the deadline.
Look, these are complex, they're comprehensive, they're constructive negotiations with the Americans are ongoing. It's possible that they may not conclude by the 1st of August.
In Gaza, large black boxes containing food fall from the sky. But for many, like Amal Abu Asi, a mother of 3, the aid is not just insufficient, it's degrading. Enough with this humiliation, she says. People are running after these parcels and dying. It's not worth it. She holds up a can of hummus. What should I do with this, she asks. Children are pale, turning to skeletons. They've forgotten what meat and fruit are. A global hunger monitor says a famine scenario is unfolding in the Gaza Strip, and that children under 5 especially are dying. At Nasser Hospital in Gaza's Khan Yunis, a doctor places infant Wateen on a scale. She now weighs less than when she was born 3 months ago. Her arms are about as wide as her mother's thumb. Yasmin Abu Sultan says that her daughter was cut off milk for 10 days and that she went to many places and no one helped. Finally, in desperation, she came to the hospital. Maria Radwan sits next to her 10-month-old daughter, Zaina, who's lying down. She says Zaina is always lethargic like this. She doesn't move. She says there's no food available, that she's unable to breastfeed her because she too is experiencing severe malnutrition. As aid begins to trickle in, the United Nations says the scale of what is needed is vast in order to stave off famine and avert a health crisis. The Gaza Health Ministry says 154 people, including 89 children, have died of malnutrition, most in recent weeks. Israel says it has no aim to starve Gaza. This week, it announced steps to allow more aid in, including pausing fighting in some locations, airdropping food, and offering more secure routes. US envoy Steve Witkoff is heading to Israel for talks on the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Former Vice President Kamala Harris says she will not run for governor of California, ending speculation that the failed presidential candidate would seek the high-profile post. In a statement, Harris said that, for now, my leadership and public service will not be in elected office. California Governor Gavin Newsom cannot run for re-election due to term limits. Local authorities have lifted the tsunami alert in French Polynesia and say people can return to their homes. Japan, Hawaii and Russia have also downgraded most tsunami warnings after a very powerful earthquake off Russia's far eastern coast triggered alerts across the Pacific. Fed Chair Jerome Powell says the U.S. Central Bank is holding interest rates steady.
Focusing on the first half of the year helps smooth through the volatility in the quarterly.
That might not go down well with Trump, who wants lower rates now.
We should be the lowest interest rate, and we're not.
Fed reporter Howard Schneider has been following the decision.
I think the message is that one analyst put it, this was a reminder that it's the Federal Reserve that sets interest rates, not the White House, not the markets, and not anyone else. And he cut the legs out from under this idea that a September rate cut is a done deal. The July to September meeting is one of the longer ones, 8 weeks instead of 6, so they get a full 2 months worth of data effectively. And he said, listen, that's a lot to absorb. The data's going to have to tell the story. The data's going to have to show a turn either towards slower growth and employment risk or towards slowing inflation before we start to cut rates.
While Trump and Powell face off over interest rates, US companies are removing CEOs at the fastest rate in 20 years. So far this year, at least 41 CEOs have left S&P 500 companies. Procter & Gamble just announced CEO John Mueller will step down next year. In the past month, Tylenol maker Kenvue and healthcare products distributor Henry Schein also replaced their top bosses. Reporter Isla Binney has been diving into the data.
We are looking at a likely rate of departures of chief executives this year, which would be the fastest, if it continues on an annualized basis, that we've seen since 2005. There are huge pressures that have been building up on chief executives really since the COVID-19 pandemic. Companies are dealing with high inflation, geopolitical instability, and corporate culture questions are seen to really be the responsibility of the chief executive. Investors are really keen to see returns, and in those cases where shareholder returns have not been that great for a company, they are at risk from activist investors. Activist investors have launched some successful campaigns for real change at the company. In the case of Tylenol maker Kenvue, we saw the company say that they were looking to increase shareholder returns when they announced the departure of their chief executive. Separately, another factor which has built up over the last few years is that boards in general have become more diverse. Now, some observers say that the increasing diversity of boards means that they are more willing to challenge the executive suite. There were times in history when the board's relationship with the chief executive was more cozy, but as they have become more objective, we see them asking more uncomfortable questions.
You set the table, put on a playlist, even made the lasagna from scratch. And now you're wearing it. OxiClean Max Force Spray tackles tough, set-in stains the first time. Adulting is hard. Fighting stains shouldn't be. OxiClean Max Force. It's not clean unless it's OxiClean.
And to Birmingham in the UK for today's recommended read.
I'm very sad to see Ozzy go, but I think he'd be proud of the turnout today and everything.
A fond farewell to the Prince of Darkness from metal fans lining the streets of his hometown. Follow the link in the pod description to see our reporting from the funeral cortege. For more on any of the stories from today, check out Reuters.com or the Reuters app. Don't forget to follow us on your favourite podcast player. We'll be back tomorrow with our daily headline show.
From ABC News Nightline at 4 a.m. today.
The kid you hear playing the piano, he's not mine. On top of the 2 weekly piano lessons and finger yoga, I give my son Smarty Pants vitamins to support his brain health because, well, I'm supposed to say it's not a competition. Of course it's a f***ing competition. Choose Smarty Pants vitamins to support your kid's brain health and help them master whatever their chopsticks may be. Shop on Amazon, smartypantsvitamins.com, or at Target today.
This is Nightline.
Tonight, face filler fallout, the growing trend of swearing off injectables. From famous faces like Courtney Cox.
I was just doing too many fillers.
To Teresa Giudice, posting about her process.
Come with me to get my lips dissolved.
We're with young people who went under the knife to fix what they say were big mistakes.
I was looking for a look of super plump lips.
So you were thinking the bigger the better.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah. Plus, Gavin Rossdale, one-on-one with the frontman of Bush. Could have been easier on you. Known for monster 90s hits like Glycerine. The father of 4, including 3 children with ex Gwen Stefani, now on tour with new music like Scar. Revealing his emotional side.
It doesn't make you weak to have a vulnerability. It makes you human.
The message Rossdale says he's sending.
I wanted to make a record for everyone, for those people so they don't feel alone.
And Justin Timberlake. The Rock Your Body singer shocking fans by revealing the debilitating health condition he says he's been battling.
From ABC News headquarters in New York, this is Nightline.
So good, so good, so good. Ready to rack to school and save big? Get to your Nordstrom Rack store today for thousands of deals from just $20.
Because I want to look fresh.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
I got a new backpack.
Score everyone's favorite denim, sneakers, boots, and activewear from Nike, Levi's, Steve Madden, Madewell, and Free People. Great brands, great prices. Everyone's got a reason to rack. Shop Nordstrom Rack and make it the best school year ever.
It's summer. Time to enjoy long days, lazy nights, and zero cooking. Because Uber Eats has deals all summer long. So when hunger strikes, don't sweat it. Delicious deals are just a tap away on Uber Eats. Enjoy all your favorite food delivered straight to you. Get Burger King, Subway, Popeyes, and hundreds more local favorites and savor every last bite. Now that sounds like a good summer. Order now on Uber Eats. Terms apply. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, stars and non-celebrities alike moving away from facial fillers and toward a more natural look. But some are finding those fillers have shifted, fallen, or migrated, forcing them to make the jump from needles to knives. Here's ABC's Stephanie Ramos with another look.
There's a new trend on the red carpet. Celebrities opening up about dissolving facial fillers.
I called my doctor. I was like, hey, when can I come in to take this out?
And swearing them off for good. Ariana Grande telling Entertainment Tonight.
I'm still clean. But I love it and I support it. But I am still 4 years clean.
Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Yolanda Hadid posting about embracing a new aesthetic, writing that she's living in a body free of breast implants, fillers, Botox, extensions. And Courtney Cox talking about removing her fillers on the Gloss Angeles podcast.
I was just doing too many fillers and then having to have them removed, which, thank God, they are removable. But I think I messed up a lot. And now, luckily, I was able to reverse most of that.
I haven't gotten Botox in 3 years.
Ryan Jowers is 26 years old and started his cosmetic journey almost a decade ago with fillers.
What made you get fillers?
I had always seen on social media other influencers. Kylie Jenner at that time was, I think, 16 years old getting her lips done. And just seeing that kind of noise everywhere, seeing the influencers apply products to their lips that were beautiful and full was a big motivator. I was sort of looking for a look of super plump lips. I wanted them full, round.
So you were thinking the bigger the better.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.
Ryan was just 18 years old when he got his first injection of fillers in his lips.
18, you were so young.
When my 18th birthday was coming up, because that's the legal age to get it, I was determined. One day when I was in high school, I ran over to the med spa, got my lips done, and went back to class right after that.
This is what Ryan looked like at 17, before he had any cosmetic work done.
Here we go.
Let's see. When you look at this photo and you see this version of Ryan, what comes to mind right away?
Kind of sad. It was someone that I wasn't happy to look at back then.
The fillers, he says, changed everything.
My favorite thing truly was the change. It was not necessarily the shock value, but being able to see something I didn't like, address it, and move on and be happy with it.
That trip to the med spa in high school was just the beginning.
I had gone back 2 months later, and then 3 months after that I went back as well. And then I think it was probably 4 or 5 months after that. So my frequency built up for sure.
These injectables, sometimes described as dissolving over time.
It's often said to be a temporary fix because the filler will naturally dissipate or dissolve. But we're learning more and more that many of these substances are persistent in people's body for longer than they may think, and that exposes people to risks that we are only beginning to understand.
For years, Ryan says he kept getting more lip filler and eventually cheek filler as well, until it all became too much.
Lips are way out of proportion, cheeks. I felt uncomfortable. I felt an anxiety. I felt like I was being looked at and not seen. So I thought I'd give it time. And then 2 years later, I still didn't recognize myself. And that was really where I went down the change of dissolving and surgical intervention.
So Ryan began to undo what he had spent thousands of dollars and years of his life doing. He had some of his fillers dissolved, then got a rhinoplasty. And at only 25 years old, a brow and eye lift.
What was that process like?
It was an interesting landscape. Being, a younger man, it comes with a lot of judgment from plastic surgeons. You have to admit to someone not only that you made mistakes, but that you're not happy with the way you look. And that's a very vulnerable thing with anyone, whether it's a friend or a doctor.
He says he sees now that he didn't fully understand how fillers work when he first started getting them.
Our knowledge on fillers was not what it was today. It was that fillers aren't permanent, so you need more, you need more, you need more.
There haven't been procedures like cosmetic procedures and aesthetic procedures that can actually alter young people's faces and bodies to the degree that we have today. There also hasn't been the pressure that young people are receiving on social media to look a certain way. So this is really unprecedented.
Ryan says the surgical lifts were his best option.
I'm happier now with the way my face looks, given that surgery was an intervention or an option of altering my chin, altering my nose, altering my face in a way that naturally would have not been possible or achievable through a med spa procedure. You can kind of see our point of entry and vectors here that help pull this structure up.
Not afraid to be vulnerable with his journey, posting his recovery and before and afters on TikTok. His videos viewed hundreds of thousands of times.
I felt like if I lifted my brows anymore, the droopiness would just be grotesque.
What was the reaction on social media?
It's very negative.
Really?
Truly, yeah. And it comes from any wheelhouse of, I see no difference, you should have spent that money on something else clearly, or before was better, why would you botch yourself? And I don't agree with any of them, and I've been putting up with negative comments regarding my decisions for a long time now. My face is altered, but I recognize myself, and I see a version of myself I'm happy with.
The face is one of the most complicated areas on the body in terms of blood vessels, nerves, and muscles. And I think that what people don't realize is one of the reasons why it requires such expertise is because the risk of complication is so high, and the risk of disfigurement is so high that you have to make sure you're doing it with someone who knows exactly what they're doing.
30-year-old Jessie is doing just that, consulting a plastic surgeon. She says the jaw filler she got at another clinic a year ago had visibly migrated.
So you had mentioned that you had some filler dissolved?
Yeah.
Can you tell me whereabouts that was on your face? And
So I got my jawline, and recently it shifted from a massage, so it's up here.
From a massage it shifted?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then a little on the other side.
Dr. Dilip Banani,
we could just make sure the bed is flat.
A double board-certified facial plastic surgeon, is now removing that filler as part of a previously scheduled lipo procedure.
15 years ago, it was only like patients 50s and 60s and 70s, but now we're definitely seeing 30s and 40s coming in, like almost a quarter of my patients right now.
And they're not just coming for injectables.
We are seeing a lot of younger patients coming in, especially in their 40s now, coming in for facelifts, or even like early 50s.
And that smoothness that someone would get with a facelift, how long does that last?
It'll last as long as you do. So let's say make you look 10 years younger with a facelift. It's not that we stop you from aging, but you'll always look 10 years younger than if you never did the procedure. A little bit of swelling, potential bruising for a couple of days, okay?
Mm-hmm. He says every case should be looked at individually and has reservations about treating very young patients.
Or if somebody were 18 and they walked into your practice and they either wanted Botox, filler, or an actual procedure, cosmetic surgery, what would your practice do?
We basically filter out those patients. I think 18 is probably a little young, but there are some patients who are congenitally have eye bags and very deep set eyes, and they want to look more fresh. I can help you, right? But I'm going to go super conservative and discuss with you your options. I think if you're coming in 20 to 25, I don't think most people are going to be a facelift candidate.
So what are the possible dangers that come with a facelift?
With any procedure, there's always 4 risks of bleeding, infection, scarring, and nerve damage.
Ryan hopes telling his story will help those who are just starting their cosmetic journeys.
I'm grateful for my experience, even the bad of it, because that's how I got here. Through that, I was able to learn and make better decisions when it came to permanent solutions.
It's important to uncouple the idea that a perfect appearance is going to lead to a perfect life. And normalizing that, I think, is very important. Focusing on self-care and mental health is just as important as skincare or a beauty routine that makes you feel beautiful.
Our thanks to Stephanie. For more on this story, watch the full Impact by Nightline Facelift After Fillers, now streaming on Hulu. Up next, Gavin Rossdale of Bush, finding a more vulnerable voice after 90s grunge classics like Glycerine.
Glycerine, glycerine. Put us in a box. Go ahead. That just gives us something to break out of. Because the next generation 2025 GMC Terrain Elevation is raising the standard of what comes standard. As far as expectations go, why meet them when you can shatter them? What we choose to challenge, we challenge completely. We are professional grade. Visit GMC.com to learn more.
As a sports fan, I have to confess. Sometimes the game gets kind of boring. That's when I unfold my Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 and use multi-window viewing on its large screen. Boring game? I'm checking out my fantasy baseball league at the same time. Score still 1-0? I'm replying to emails in the other window, scoring points with the boss. Semifinals finally getting exciting? I'm buying tickets to the finals and booking my flights. Can your phone do that?
The new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Get yours at Samsung.com.
Welcome back. Bush cut their teeth in the 90s, rising to the top of the rock charts and amassing a fervent fan base that continues to pack their shows to this day. Frontman Gavin Rossdale made his own headlines back then with now ex-wife Gwen Stefani, with whom he continues to co-parent their 3 children. He sat down with ABC's Morgan Norwood to talk the then and now of the journey.
Gavin Rossdale, welcome to Nightline. So great to have you.
Thank you. So great to be here.
You have a brand new album out, and you say that it's the most personal record that you've ever dropped. I Beat Loneliness. It's literally in the title. Tell me the story behind this title.
Well, I was going to make the 10th record. I really thought to confront myself, to do something of value to people. And I reflected on the amount of times I've spoken to people who love the band and, fans and things at the meet and greets. And they talk about the strength they get from the lyrics and the connection they have with the band. And so I just thought writing a record based around mental health, my mental health, the discussion of mental health, how people are struggling in this kind of modern world. And I wanted to make a record for everyone and for those people so they don't feel alone. So this is how it began, and this is what I'm doing.
You know, Gavin, it's been said that this album feels much like a soul shower. Do you believe that men face more of a stigma when talking about their mental health?
Yeah, I mean that's the irony of it. You know, we as men, with suicide rates at an alarming level globally. It's just really good to try and talk about things. I've been singing about that for years. It's a great thing that people are discussing that, so men don't feel so alone. They don't feel weak by discussing weaknesses. It doesn't make you weak to have a vulnerability. It makes you human.
Where do you go to tap into that vulnerability as you're writing?
Myself, my own struggles, and I want people to understand that when people see people that they perceive as purely successful and nothing else, like one-dimensional, that everybody goes through these crazy challenges. I mean, I made a TV show, Dinner with Gavin Rossdale, that's me. Hearing these people, the incredible celebrities and their journey, and everyone has these moments of doubt and are against all odds. And I wanted to give strength to everyday people.
You know, Bush just kicked off a world tour of the U.S. and fans are still singing the hits like Glycerin.
Could have been easier on you. I could change, though I wanted to.
You know, what does it mean to you to see that these songs still have the staying power and your fans are still singing along?
It's incredible. I was at Madison Square Garden when I introduced Glycerin. I was like, the thing about this song, which I find the most touching to me, is that it was written from a place of complete innocence. I didn't know there was an audience waiting for me. I didn't know there was a future for me. I was just trying to write a good song. And so then to play it at Madison Square Garden and have people sing it back to me, just means that I chose the right thing to do with my life, so it feels good.
You just talked about the connection that you have with your fans. You were literally in the stands. Where do you get that energy?
I think it's just a desire to connect. One thing I look at, I love playing really big venues, but when I look around and I see people all the way up, I feel that I'm challenged by how can I reach them so that it really matters to them, the show matters to them, the evening, the moment, and it elevates them. And so one of the kind of more Neanderthal things I think of doing is running around trying to find people. People lose their mind, and you're sweating all over them, and they're holding you up. It's just an incredible moment where they feel like they are really there.
You know, what do the fans give you? What do they do for you in those moments?
It's their energy and their sort of devotion to the music and the band, showing up at all these shows. That's what feeds me. So I'm almost getting more from them than they're getting from me.
You know, you've been co-parenting with your ex, Gwen Stefani, for years. How is your relationship with her today?
She wasn't at the Garden, but I'm sure she wishes me really well.
Your daughter, Daisy, just got married.
Yeah.
Your sons are also there.
You
were there.
Incredible.
What was that moment like as a dad?
Just really beautiful, because the main thing is that she is with an incredible person. And so that's all you want for your children. They've got to be, I think if you have children, there's a responsibility to not put jerks into the world. And so we work really hard at like them being kind of cool and likable and sort of having humility and a kindness to them. Daisy is all of those things and above and beyond. And so seeing her just happy and married, it just feels the way it should feel for a patriarch.
What would you tell 30-year-old Gavin that you wish you would have known?
You know, it's so much better when you don't take things personally. It's all about getting the most out of life and enjoying it to the max and being good to the people around you.
How would you say your music has evolved over the decades?
I think I've just gotten better at editing. You know, when I first made records, there was no horizon. You know what I mean? I just make a record and try and be successful and try and sort of do well. And then now, I just want to put things of value into the world. And it's our responsibility to make great records. And then we keep music alive.
What do you need from your art now that you didn't have 30 years ago?
Wow, that's a great question. You know, it's just about the meaning. What is the meaning of life? Obviously, as a father is my primary job. You know, I have 4 incredible children, so that's my main job. And then my second job is a songwriter. You know, I just chose to do that many years ago. And so the thrill of it and the luxury, the freedom to be able to continue to do that is mind-blowing. You know, it's a difficult world. And so just being here in this great studio with you on this great show, it's such an honor. And like, that's what life is about, fulfilling your purpose. And I feel my purpose is to lift people up and to make people feel less alone.
And you do that so well. Gavin, it has been a pleasure to have you here on Nightline. Thank you so much.
Our thanks to Morgan. When we come back, Cry Me a River singer Justin Timberlake, the debilitating health condition he says almost made him cancel his tour. And finally tonight, Justin Timberlake revealing his shocking health battle. The singer and actor posting an update for fans saying he's been battling Lyme disease, the hitmaker known for high-energy tunes like Can't Stop the Feeling. Calling the diagnosis shocking and revealing he experienced massive nerve pain and felt relentlessly debilitated. Timberlake's just-wrapped tour getting some mixed reviews for low-energy performances. The singer adding he considered ending the tour when diagnosed, but decided the joy that performing brings me far outweighs the fleeting stress my body was feeling. We wish him well. That's Nightline for this evening. You can catch our full episodes on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+. We'll see you right back here same time tomorrow. Thanks for the company, America. Good night.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
From ABC World News tonight at 3 p.m. yesterday.
Tonight we have breaking news. The verdict just in. The case making national headlines. A family dentist who authorities say was secretly and systematically poisoning his wife, lacing her protein shakes with cyanide, the mother of his 6 children. The verdict a short time ago, and you will see the moment in court. Also tonight, the images pouring in, one of the largest earthquakes ever on record. An 8.8, homes shaking, doctors protecting a cancer patient during surgery, leading to tsunami warnings and alerts from Japan to Hawaii to the west coast of the U.S. And tonight here, what scientists now say we should prepare for. Tonight in New York City, the stunning story now emerging from that deadly rampage on Park Avenue in that high-rise office building. One of the workers who was shot and what he did. Crawling through a doorway after being shot and calling several floors up in that building, what he told his coworkers and friends on that call. Tonight, a disturbing headline, a city councilman intentionally doused with flammable liquid and set on fire. Tonight, with this dangerous heat and the sudden temperature drop soon coming, the northeast New York City now bracing for the potential for dangerous storms and possible flash flooding. So Lee Goldberg is here. He'll time this out. You'll remember the crash over the Potomac. Tonight, new images right here of those final moments. An American Airlines flight and the U.S. Army Black Hawk. And now we learn what the pilots of that passenger plane said in those final moments. Tonight, the children of Gaza, the haunting images of hunger. Ian Pannell on the desperate need for food. Back in the U.S., the deadly explosion, and now we learn 2 children were inside that plant along with a worker, all 3 killed. The children were waiting to be taken to a doctor's appointment. The news tonight involving former Vice President Kamala Harris, her big decision revealed. Tonight, swimmers urged to get out of the water with sharks spotted in the Northeast, 2 major beaches. A tearful Sharon Osbourne as thousands of fans line the streets to remember Ozzy Osbourne. And the American couple on vacation in Greece, millions have now seen this. The boyfriend recording what was supposed to be his picture-perfect proposal, but then the other couple walking right into frame. Tonight here, we hear from the newly engaged and why they want to find that other couple.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and we begin tonight with the breaking news coming in from a Colorado courtroom at this hour. The verdict in a case making national headlines, a well-known dentist accused of killing his wife of 23 years by slowly poisoning her protein shakes with cyanide. Authorities say his slow, methodical plan landed his wife at the hospital 3 times over 10 days. Tonight, James Craig has been found guilty of killing his wife, Angela, the mother of his 6 children, now convicted of first-degree murder. The jury deliberating for more than 8 hours, and just moments ago, the judge sentencing James Craig to life in prison. ABC's Kana Whitworth with the moment in that courtroom, the verdict being read just a short time ago.
It was a story that made national headlines. A community dentist who authorities say was secretly and systematically poisoning his wife to death, lacing her protein shakes with cyanide and a drug found in over-the-counter eye drops.
Pink top shaker bottle. This is a murder weapon. This is one of the murder weapons.
Puzzling symptoms sending her to the hospital 3 times over 10 days in March of 2023, until prosecutors say James Craig administered the fatal dose as the mother of his 6 children lay dying in her hospital bed. Late today, the dentist in a Colorado courtroom as the judge read the jury's verdict.
We, the jury, unanimously and beyond a reasonable doubt, find the defendant, James Craig, guilty of murder in the first degree.
Craig also found guilty of trying to fabricate evidence to make his wife Angela's death look like suicide, asking others to lie for him, including one of his own children, and asking a fellow inmate to kill the detective investigating him. The defense argued Angela actually took her own life after she learned her husband was cheating on her. But the jury, not convinced. Angela's family, emotional in court.
None of us could have imagined that the person she chose as her companion, the father of her 6 children and the man we welcomed into our family, as our trusted brother-in-law, would callously and cruelly, without mercy, take her life.
And David, we know Craig will spend the rest of his life behind bars. One of his children saying in court that her father will forever be a villain. David.
Kana Whitworth leading us off tonight. Kana, thank you. Now to the new images tonight after one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded, of magnitude 8.8, striking off the coast of eastern Russia. You likely got the alerts last night on your phone, triggering tsunami warnings for millions from Japan to Hawaii to California and much of the west coast of the U.S. The quake and falling pieces of ceilings. This is the airport near the epicenter. Doctors performing cancer surgery, trying to protect the patient right there in the OR as the earthquake hit. Tsunami waves and flooding along Russia's coast, while in Hawaii, tsunami warnings going off, residents and tourists there seeking higher ground, and of course the alerts in California right up the west coast. And tonight here, what scientists now say could be coming next. Trevor Ault on the California coastline.
This was the moment one of the largest earthquakes ever recorded triggered tsunami waves and panic around the Pacific Rim, from Russia to Japan to the U.S. That 8.8 magnitude quake striking just before 11:30 a.m., 85 miles off the Kamchatka Peninsula on Russia's far east coast. Buildings shaking violently. Doctors at this cancer hospital forced to brace their patient in the middle of surgery. The front of this kindergarten completely sheared off. The tremor setting off tsunami alerts from Russia to Japan, Alaska, Hawaii, and the West Coast. Terrified Japanese residents taking refuge on the roof of a fire station in Hokkaido. Our Britt Clennett in Tokyo Bay.
People in Japan have been advised to stay away from the water, and coastal defenses have been bolstered, like here around the Tokyo Bay, since the last major tsunami in 2011.
Sirens blaring on the beaches in Honolulu.
All lifeguards will be leaving at 5 p.m.
Lifeguards urging people to evacuate. The rush to higher ground resulting in a massive gridlock.
So there's the beach as it stands right now. Parking lot is completely empty. Let's see how this goes.
Some flights to Hawaii forced to turn around and go back.
It's best for us to turn around and go back to Vancouver.
This animation showing dozens of ships and boats racing out of Honolulu Harbor and out to sea to ride it out. In Hilo, a cruise ship having to depart early, leaving some passengers behind.
We are on our way to a shelter and higher ground. We did not make the ship.
In California, this time-lapse showing boats bouncing in Half Moon Bay, the harbor in Crescent City near the Oregon border sustaining damage. And as the West Coast braced back in Russia, waves up to 13 feet high crashing ashore near the quake's epicenter. Rocks raining down, sea lions diving into the water. And in Japan, these images of massive sperm whales washed ashore in Chiba Prefecture making headlines, but officials say it's not related to the tsunami. The quake occurring on what's known as a megathrust fault. So-called megathrust quakes can be among the most powerful, and the ensuing tsunami waves can travel up to 500 miles an hour. And the seismic activity also resulted in the eruption of Russia's largest volcano, a research camera showing the glowing lava.
And David, seismologists are now expecting aftershocks to continue for weeks or more, and they say they can't rule out the possibility of another quake that's even larger than this one. But given this magnitude, 8.8, it is stunning that so far there has been no reported loss of life. David?
That is very true. Trevor Ault tonight. Trevor, thank you. This evening here in New York City, the stunning story now emerging after that deadly rampage on that Park Avenue high-rise building. One of the workers who was shot and what he did. Crawling through a doorway after being wounded and then calling several floors up, what he told his coworkers, what he told his friends on that call. Here's Aaron Katersky tonight.
Tonight we're learning about an extraordinary act by one of the workers shot inside this Park Avenue skyscraper. People are just running. The man who worked for the NFL shot by the suspect in the lobby, and instead of calling 911 to get help for himself, authorities say he somehow crawled through a door and called his friends and colleagues several floors up to alert them of the danger headed their way as the suspect headed for the elevators. The worker's one of 5 people shot, the only one to survive.
These guys are coming in.
Tonight, authorities say that selfless act to call others, to tell them to get to safe rooms, to get to panic rooms, instead of begging for help for himself, makes him a hero.
He didn't call 911. He called his friends to tell him upstairs what was happening. You guys, like that, I just got shot downstairs, get cover, you got to fortify those doors, hit those panic rooms. He's letting his team know. Like, this guy's a hero.
The shooter, 27-year-old Shane Tamura, seen here walking into the building with an M4-style assault rifle, never made it to the NFL offices that authorities believe were his target. Police found a 3-page note in the shooter's pocket claiming he had a traumatic brain injury and blaming the NFL for concealing the dangers to players' brains to maximize profits.
Definitely had to stay disciplined.
The shooter played high school, not professional football, and his coach in Southern California told us he did not recall Tamura getting hurt.
That was a complete shock. I did not witness any injuries.
Sources tell ABC News Tamura left another note at his Las Vegas home apologizing to his parents. When I look into you and Dad's eyes, I see complete disappointment. I love you, Mama. I'm sorry. And tonight, David, NYPD detectives are talking to the shooter's parents in Las Vegas to learn more about his mental health history. David?
Aaron Katersky on this again tonight. Aaron, thank you. Next tonight, hear that disturbing headline from Danville, Virginia. A city councilman intentionally doused with flammable liquid and set on fire. Here's Pierre Thomas.
Tonight, a horrific crime in broad daylight. A city councilman from Danville, Virginia, doused with gasoline and set on fire.
What's up, guys? It's Lee Vogler.
Councilman Lee Vogler confronted inside the office of a local magazine where he also worked.
An individual forced his way into our office carrying a 5-gallon bucket of gasoline and poured the gasoline on Lee. Lee attempted to flee, ran to the front of the building. The individual followed him and set him on fire.
Vogler, elected in 2012, then the youngest member of the city council.
As you guys know, for 13 years, I've never missed a meeting.
Tonight, witnesses say that before the councilman was airlifted to a North Carolina hospital, he identified his attacker as 29-year-old Shotzi Buck Hayes. Police arrested Buck Hayes after he allegedly fled the scene. Authorities say the suspect's motive involves a personal matter not related to the victim's position on Danville City Council or any other political affiliation. Tonight, the suspect is being held without bond in the Danville City Jail. He's facing a charge of attempted first-degree murder. David?
What an awful story. Pierre Thomas tonight, thank you. Next this evening, with this dangerous heat and now this sudden temperature drop soon coming, the Northeast, New York City included, now bracing for potential for dangerous storms and possible flash flooding. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Lee Goldberg from WABC, tracking it all again tonight for us. Hi, Lee.
Hey, David, we're extinguishing the heat wave right now in New York City with a heavy shower that's just formed on top of us, and more of this to come tomorrow. Meanwhile, we still have heat alerts from Texas all the way up to New England. Let's track the relief. New York City goes from feeling like 100 degrees to 60s as we go into the day on Friday. That relief will get down to the I-20 corridor. It'll still be blazing along the Gulf Coast. Again, the heat goes out swinging. A rare moderate risk for flash flooding from D.C. to New York tomorrow. 2 inches in less than 30 minutes possible. David?
We'll be watching that right here with you. Thank you, Lee. Now to the new images tonight of that crash over the Potomac, the final moments of that American Airlines flight colliding with the U.S. Army Black Hawk, and what the pilots of the passenger plane said in those final moments. Here's Mola Lenghi.
Tonight, newly released video showing the moment of the deadly crash between an American Airlines flight and a Black Hawk helicopter over the Potomac River. The bright lights of the passenger plane seen as it makes its descent, the military helicopter heading directly towards the jet, the two colliding. 67 people killed, their loved ones wiping away tears as they watched the video during the first day of NTSB hearings on the investigation. The agency revealing the final conversations of the American Airlines pilots recovered from the cockpit voice recorder, sharing their words but not their voices. Both pilots hesitating about air traffic control's last-minute switch to land on runway 33. One pilot at first saying, "I really don't want to, but I guess tell him," then changing their mind. "Nah, it's fine. We got the numbers for it. Yeah, tell them we're fine." Then, 2 seconds before impact, the pilots swearing and attempting in vain to pull up the plane. The NTSB finding the helicopter was flying above the altitude limit and that the crew was likely not aware of their height due to notoriously faulty altimeters on the Black Hawk.
Well, David, the NTSB chair also saying there was only 75 feet of separation between helicopters and passenger jets at a very critical point near runway 33. Now, the FAA has since suspended and even restricted some flight routes near DCA, David.
Mola Lenghi tonight. Mola, thank you. We turn overseas tonight into the hunger crisis in Gaza. Tonight, hear the faces of the children and the families in desperate need. Here's our chief foreign correspondent, Ian Pannell.
Tonight, pressure for a ceasefire and an end to the suffering in Gaza growing. The images shocking the world. The children of Gaza, skin and bone, wasting away. The cruelty of hunger striking the weakest. This baby girl tested for malnutrition, and you can see it clearly. Red. It means she's acutely malnourished. A tiny syringe, her only sustenance. Over the last 24 hours, at least 7 people have died due to malnutrition. A sea of Palestinians carrying aid as more humanitarian assistance is airdropped today. Lining up for aid, often chaotic and deadly. Today, at least 37 people killed and 270 injured attempting to get food. The desperation is acute. Crowds rushing to the water's edge to retrieve airdropped aid. Others frantically crowding just for a ladle full of soup. 2 boys left scraping the empty pot, not knowing when they'll eat again. Those scenes fueling the growing pressure to end the war. 2 leading human rights groups accusing their own governments of genocide in Gaza, a claim Israel strongly rejects.
Why did you decide, as an organisation, to use the word genocide to describe what's happening in Gaza?
What we've seen in the last 22 months is the wholesale destruction of Gaza's health system. And when you destroy the health system, you destroy the people.
David, momentum for a ceasefire and hostage deal growing. Arab nations calling for Hamas to disarm. And now Steve Witkoff, the special envoy, heading this way for talks.
David.
Ian Panel with us tonight. Ian, thank you. Back here in the U.S. tonight, a political note. Former Vice President Kamala Harris announcing she will not run for governor of California next year. Harris says she gave serious thought to running for governor of her home state. She now says she will not run. Those close to Harris tonight reportedly saying this decision does now leave open the potential for another presidential run in 2028. When we come back here tonight, the deadly explosion, 2 children and an adult killed, the children waiting to be taken to the doctor's office. Also tonight, a tearful Sharon Osbourne as thousands line the streets. And in the Northeast tonight, swimmers sent from the waters at 2 major beaches. The shark sightings in a moment here.
This podcast is brought to you by Wise, the app for international people using money around the globe. With Wise, you can send, spend, and receive up to 40 currencies with only a few simple taps. And save up to 55% compared to major banks. Whether you're buying souvenirs with pesos in Puerto Vallarta or sending euros to a loved one in Paris, you know you're getting a fair exchange rate with no extra markups. That's what makes Wise the fast, affordable way to use your money around the globe. Wise offers 24/7 live support and runs over 7 million daily checks to catch and prevent fraud, so you know your money is where it's supposed to be. Be smart. Join the 15 million customers who choose Wise. Download the Wise app today or visit wise.com. Learn more by visiting wise.com/US/compare. Terms and conditions apply.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. That's ziprecruiter.com/zip. ziprecruiter.com/zip.
Tonight, we're learning more about that deadly explosion at a plant in Fremont, Nebraska. 2 children and a worker, all inside, were killed. Our affiliate KETV capturing the fiery blast. Authorities say 2 girls were waiting to be taken to a doctor's appointment. When we come back here in the Northeast, sharks spotted near 2 major beaches. Also tonight, the proposal. The boyfriend setting up his camera. They were not expecting this, and they really need your help tonight.
I'm Ryan Coogler. When Katrina hit in 2005, the images on the news were impossible to ignore. But what we didn't see were the stories behind those images. We got you, baby. The people. Oh, God. The decisions.
They were coming back for you.
The systems that failed.
This ain't no game.
We set out to tell those stories through the voices of the people who lived through the disaster. This is their account of what really happened and why it matters today.
Hurricane Katrina, Race Against Time. Now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
Whether you're into comedians roasting each other's life choices or turning yesterday's bad decisions into today's funny stories, Amazon Music's got the most ad-free top podcasts, included with Prime. Download the Amazon Music app and get in on the joke. Or go to amazon.com/ad-free-comedy. That's amazon.com/ad-free-comedy to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
To the index tonight, thousands in the UK remembering Ozzy Osbourne. A marching band performing Black Sabbath's Iron Man, his wife Sharon Osbourne, their children Kelly and Jack laying flowers at a memorial. Osbourne died following a battle with Parkinson's. He was 76. Back here at home in the Northeast, shark sightings keeping swimmers out of the water on Long Island. Video showing multiple spinner sharks close to shore near Flying Point Beach in the Hamptons. Potentially more dangerous bull shark spotted right off Fire Island. When we come back here tonight, the proposal, the perfect setting, the beautiful couple, and then it took a turn. You have to see this.
Imagine you're a business owner relying on a dozen different software programs, each one disconnected, more expensive, and more complicated than the last. It can be incredibly stressful, right? Now, picture Odoo. Odoo brings all the tools your business needs into one simple platform. CRM, accounting, inventory, manufacturing, marketing, HR, and more. All seamlessly connected. Everything works together, giving you the peace of mind that your business is running smoothly from every angle. Odoo's open source applications are user-friendly and designed to scale with your business, saving you time and money. Say goodbye to juggling multiple platforms and hello to efficient, integrated management. Stop wasting resources on complicated systems and make the switch to Odoo today. Visit odoo.com, ODOO.com, and discover how Odoo can simplify and streamline your business operations. Odoo, modern management made simple.
Good Liberty, our WNBA champion!
We can't get enough of the WNBA. A fresh draft class has arrived.
Dallas Wings select Paige Beckers.
Teams stacked with new talent.
Jewel is a complete dog.
The Valkyries take flight in the Bay.
Ridiculous!
We've got more stars and more heat than ever. WNBA on ESPN, presented by Google. We can't get enough.
It was the perfect setting for the most romantic proposal until it wasn't. Tonight, it was supposed to be a dream wedding proposal captured on camera. The boyfriend had set up his camera for his proposal, but the couple was not expecting what would happen next. Kevin Arrieta and Natalie Melanie from Miami, dating for 3 years. They were in Greece on vacation. Kevin had picked out the perfect spot to propose, setting up his phone to record. Getting down on one knee at the top of these steps overlooking the ocean. Natalie emotional, her head in her hands, and then a woman steps into frame right in front of them. And then a man walks in, eating a chocolate bar. The newly engaged couple were so caught up in their own moment, and rightly so, that they had no idea they'd been photobombed until they later watched the video back.
Out of nowhere, they walk in perfectly into frame. She walks in, and then him, and then the chocolate bar. It just kept adding up.
The newly engaged telling GMA this morning they're now on the hunt for the other couple. So if you're watching at home tonight and you recognize them, Natalie and Kevin are hoping you'll let them know. And here's why.
We'd love to invite them to our wedding, and we hopefully think that they also think this is funny, like we did.
Tonight, the newly engaged couple now back home in Florida and telling us tonight they've shared their video, hoping it will now inspire others to have fun, enjoy every moment, even the ones that are unexpected, including that couple stepping in.
We love them and want to thank them for making us laugh forever. Find the joy and humor in life. That's a much lighter way to live.
Let's find that other couple, and congrats. Good night.
Fridays, Project Runway is back in dramatic fashion.
This is more stressful than Cinderella at the ball.
Welcome to the runway. Heidi Klum returns as host.
One day you're in, and the next day you're out.
I'm here to show them who's the queen.
With Christian Siriano.
I'm excited.
And judges Nina Garcia and Law Roach.
I hated your dress.
Hate is such a big word.
It's a short word. It's only 4 letters.
Project Runway. New episodes Fridays. Stream on Hulu and Disney+.
From New York Times, The Daily, at 4:45 a.m. yesterday. Brought to you by the Capital One Venture X card. If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn all of your purchases into extraordinary travel. And you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book through Capital One Travel. Plus, you'll get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Capital One. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
From the New York Times, I'm Michael Barbaro. This is The Daily. After rolling back a slew of regulations aimed at reversing climate change and pulling funding for the scientists who monitor it, the Trump administration is now taking its boldest action yet. It's eliminating the scientific finding at the heart of the government's ability to fight climate change in the first place. Today, my colleague Lisa Friedman on the history of that finding, what it did, and what happens once it's gone. It's Thursday, July 31st.
thank you to Aaron. It's great to be here with all of you for what is a very big deal. It's a very big announcement. If finalized, today's announcement would amount to the largest deregulatory action in the history of the United States.
Lisa, just to start, I wonder if you can set the scene for us of this news conference that occurred just a couple of days ago.
Sure. On Tuesday, Lee Zeldin, the EPA administrator, traveled to Indianapolis to a truck dealership to make what he called one of the most significant acts of deregulation in American history. And what this was the beginning of a plan to roll back something called the endangerment finding. And that finding,
which I have to confess, I've never heard of.
Many people haven't, but the endangerment finding is the legal and scientific basis for regulating greenhouse gases in the United States, from automobiles, from power plants, from oil and gas wells, and more.
Rulemaking, we are going to have a public comment period, one that has not taken place on the endangerment finding over the course of the last decade and a half.
And how did we get here? Back in 2007, the Supreme Court ruled in a case called Massachusetts versus EPA that greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, methane, others, are pollutants, and that the EPA can regulate them if they pose a danger to human health and welfare. And so the Obama administration, when it came in 2008, set about to answer that question. Does climate change indeed endanger human health in America?
And how do they do that?
They compiled a report of more than 200 pages looking at the wealth of evidence. And, taking you back to that time, 2008, the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the UN's top scientific body, had just recently established the most comprehensive set of information to that date on establishing that climate change is caused by human activities and the dangers that it poses. It went through that. It went through findings that U.S. scientists under the Bush administration had compiled about the threats of climate change. Everything from the way that increased and more intense wildfires and the smoke from wildfires affects human health, to the increases in regional ozone pollution that are exacerbated by climate change. And based on this evidence, the Obama administration determined pretty conclusively that climate change and the emissions that are furthering climate change cause a danger to human health and welfare.
Got it. So that's why it's called
the endangerment finding.
The endangerment finding, because they put together a finding of endangerment from greenhouse emissions.
Precisely.
Okay. And what is the reaction to the Obama administration compiling and writing this 200-page report?
There's initially a tremendous amount of pushback. The fossil fuel industry is deeply concerned. The Chamber of Commerce is deeply concerned. There are worries that the federal government will start regulating emissions from Dunkin' Donuts and small businesses and churches and synagogues. And where is it going to stop?
Anyone who puts anything into the air.
Exactly. And there were efforts to block and to overturn the endangerment finding, and those failed in court. But pretty soon, this finding that greenhouse gases pose a danger to Americans becomes the official position of the U.S. government when it comes to climate change.
And you had said that the finding is foundational to regulation. So what kind of regulations spin out of this endangerment finding once the Obama people have compiled it, gotten it through the courts, and basically made it official?
So the things that flow from the endangerment finding were some of the first and most important climate regulations that the United States ever had.
Today, we're here to announce America's Clean Power Plan.
Folks might have heard of the Clean Power Plan.
A plan 2 years in the making, and the single most important step America has ever taken in the fight against global climate change.
That was an effort to reduce emissions from the utility sector from power plants in the United States, reducing methane from leaks from oil and gas wells, restrictions on automobile tailpipe emissions. These are all things that the EPA was able to do initially under the Obama administration, started to do in a big way.
And as I recall, these were very sweeping regulations. The Daily had just started to come out, and we were talking to people in the coal industry, for example, about how this regulation was going to, over time, end the coal-powered electric plant industry.
That's absolutely right. But even though some of these regulations faced setbacks in the courts, the fundamental ability to regulate, that retained because of the endangerment finding. So fast forward just a short time, the global discourse on climate change has really, really shifted.
And today, the world has officially crossed the threshold for the Paris Agreement to take effect.
The Obama administration is actively working toward a global agreement, which by 2015 would become the Paris Agreement on climate change.
And if we follow through on the commitments that this Paris Agreement embodies, history may well judge it as a turning point for our planet.
The oil industry in Washington, the American Petroleum Institute, acknowledged climate change and put itself on record as embracing solutions like a price on carbon.
Right. There seemed to be, in this moment, when it came to climate change, a loose alignment of scientific consensus, government regulation, and industry acceptance, even if it was grudging acceptance.
It was really a high point for people who acknowledged the urgency of climate change and wanted to see the world move towards solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Then Trump is elected, and he immediately takes aim at any number of Obama-era energy and climate efforts. He issues an executive order to review and they ultimately weaken the Clean Power Plan. He's looking at methane regulations, auto emission regulations. And there is a lot of talk about whether he will repeal the endangerment finding.
And how seriously does the president consider doing that?
Well, it didn't happen. And we and others reported that the EPA at that time made the decision that it was not a legal fight that it felt it could win, and it wasn't a science fight that they felt they could win. Interestingly, and I think this dynamic still holds, the business community that back in 2009 had been so worried about the endangerment finding, by 2016 had really lost an appetite for fighting it. We talked at the time to the Chamber of Commerce, to other large business trade groups, and pretty much all of them at the time said, well, no, this is settled now. We don't like regulations. We'd like changes to some of these regulations, but this underlying foundation for acknowledging the dangers of climate change,
they're okay with that.
They were okay with it.
So this furthers the idea that the endangerment finding is really here to stay.
Yeah, embedded.
Until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't.
We'll be right back.
This podcast is supported by Business Roundtable. Business Roundtable member companies support over 37 million U.S. jobs. These employers play a critical role in strengthening America's workforce. From creating jobs in skilled trades to developing industry-focused initiatives, they are setting a new standard for investing in employees. Learn how Business Roundtable member companies are carving new paths and developing a thriving workforce at brt.org/opportunity unlocked.
Why do tech leaders trust Indeed to help them find game-changing candidates? Because they know that it takes an innovator to find innovators. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is paving the way. Indeed's AI-powered solutions analyze information from millions of job seeker data points to match potential candidates to employers' jobs. You'll find quality matches faster than ever, meaning less time hiring and more time innovating. Learn more at Indeed.com/hire.
Lisa, before President Trump returns to office this year and targets this endangerment finding, in the middle of his 2 terms, of course, we have President Biden, who it seems worth briefly mentioning, makes regulating climate change a very big priority and gets a lot done on that front.
Absolutely. The Biden administration really made addressing climate change a signature part of its work over the 4 years, and it strengthened many of the Obama rules. It put forward very aggressive automobile emissions rules that were designed to transition the nation away from gas-powered cars and toward electric vehicles.
Right, a huge change.
Huge. It imposed very strict regulations on coal-fired power plants and new gas plants, new strict regulations on methane emissions. All of these things were happening because of the endangerment finding. I think in the 4 years of the Biden administration, the endangerment finding didn't come up in any overt way, but all of these regulations were fundamentally made possible because of this finding.
Right. And so the Biden presidency feels like a reinforcement of this idea that the overall arc of where the United States is going is this journey toward regulating emissions and trying to use the government to reduce them. I mean, clearly Trump broke from that, but Biden brings it back. And the sense is this is directionally still where the country's at.
Exactly. Because, through the course of Obama, Trump, and Biden, as much as the first Trump administration promoted fossil fuels, weakened regulations, they never attacked this fundamental understanding, which, like you said, has really become, by this stage, kind of embedded, that climate change is real, it's driven by human activity, it is causing threats to the planet, and those threats are endangering human life and welfare.
So talk about how the second Trump presidency settles on a strategy of trying to de-embed the endangerment finding.
The second Trump administration is a whole new ballgame. Throughout the 2024 campaign, Trump himself had been much more aggressive in attacking not just regulations, but climate change science. He joked that climate change, that, sea level rise means that people have a little bit more beachfront property. He made it very clear that there would be no debate over pulling out of the Paris Agreement. That was going to be a first day activity, and it was.
Right, because he had pulled out in his first term, Biden put us back in, and he's like, I'm going to pull us out again.
Exactly. So, when it came to something like the endangerment finding, Trump didn't talk about the endangerment finding on the campaign trail. But on his first day in office, he signed an executive order ordering the EPA administrator to make a recommendation about the legality and applicability of the endangerment finding.
In other words, he makes very clear that he has this in his sights.
Precisely.
And what happens next?
So what happens next is behind closed doors, right? The EPA does not offer really any visibility into their process. EPA career staff that had created the endangerment finding in the first place were pretty much shut out of the process. It was never announced or really very clear who exactly was working on this. But about a week ago, we reported the first details of the plan.
You're being modest. You broke this story.
Thank you. We reported that the EPA indeed planned to repeal the endangerment finding and was building a case to do that.
Well, Lisa, you had said that courts kept rejecting challenges to the endangerment finding when Obama first made it official. So when the Trump people decide that they're going to get rid of it, what legal basis do they have for getting rid of this?
This is undoubtedly going to get challenged, but the EPA is making a series of arguments and alternative arguments. What one legal scholar described to me as throwing a bunch of spaghetti to see what sticks with a court. One of its arguments is that air pollution is local And they argue that the EPA doesn't have the authority to regulate in response to global climate change.
So his argument is basically that climate change is an international phenomenon that creates dangers that are not from any one location. Therefore, the U.S. can't regulate just the local sources of it.
Exactly. Another argument it's making is that the cost of regulation should be part of the endangerment finding, right? Then when making the finding, EPA should not just look at the cost to human health, but also things like how do high regulatory costs impact consumers? Does it deny them consumer choice? Does it worsen their public health by keeping older cars on the road? That's a new argument that we hadn't seen an EPA make before. One other thing they argue is that even if the endangerment finding stayed in place, they're saying that the EPA shouldn't set standards on greenhouse gas emissions because no matter what technology we apply, we can't make a dent in the problem of global climate change.
Putting aside those legal arguments, I'm curious why in your reporting you have found that the White House has decided to go after a finding that, as you have explained very clearly in this conversation, the industry doesn't really want anymore. You've made clear that they have moved on. They have accepted a lot of the scientific consensus around climate change and adjusted their business plans accordingly. So if you really pin the Trump people down, why are they doing this? Is it to satisfy the hardest right thinkers on climate? Is it something else?
To a large extent, this is about satisfying a constituency. Repealing the endangerment finding has been the holy grail of a lot of groups that deny climate change. And so what Trump is doing in moving to repeal this is really satisfying a request to pull root and stem the ability to regulate climate change from the government.
And of course, this isn't happening in a vacuum.
Correct. Yeah.
It's part of a larger push by the second Trump administration to change what the EPA is, who works there, what it does. Can you briefly put rescinding the endangerment finding into that larger context?
As significant as repealing the endangerment finding is, and it is very significant, it's part of a larger story that we see right now. This administration is taking away science to study climate change and the impacts. It is eliminating programs that help Americans prepare for and build resilience to climate change. So at every level, there is an effort to remove climate change from the federal government.
It feels, upon reflection, like getting rid of the endangerment finding bookends two very different moments in the climate change conversation in the United States. When it was created back in the Obama presidency, and now that it's coming down. When it was created, the country had reached this growing consensus about the importance of taking on climate change. Industry, government, public opinion. But now, and I wonder what you think about this, it feels like the overall mood is different. And that includes public opinion. And it includes Democrats setting aside climate change as a major priority. Are we basically seeing, in this bookend moment, a country that's just not as urgently invested in climate change?
I think part of that is really accurate. Clearly, the country is increasingly divided on both climate change and the solutions to climate change, right? We've seen, support for wind and solar, for example, drop among Republicans. But I also don't think that we're seeing a walk back by either activists or lawmakers from addressing climate change. Everything that they had fought for is under attack. And there's no doubt that, this movement is on its back heels and trying to figure out what a new way forward would be. But I think you still see, that the majority of Americans, and the Pew polls and others show this, acknowledge climate change, are concerned about climate change, and want the government to take some kind of action, that there is a lot of dispute about what.
Well, just to end here, in the same way that the endangerment finding codified a trajectory and an outlook on climate change when it was created that was definitely in the direction of regulating emissions and fighting climate change, I'm curious, as one of our leading climate reporters, what you think it's being rescinded and removed will codify next.
I think when the dust clears on this legal fight, and there will be a big legal fight after the repeal of the endangerment is finalized, I think the question is going to come back to Congress. The reason we have had all of this whiplash with regulations in the first place is because there is no law explicitly mandating the reduction of carbon emissions in the atmosphere. And so that's the question that I think is going to be at the forefront.
Not which executive actions stay or get removed and toggle back and forth, but whether the legislative branch ever decides that this is something that it wants to tackle. Because that's how it actually becomes permanent.
Yeah, it's worth remembering that Obama, whose administration created the endangerment finding, he wanted Congress to be the one to act on climate change. When Congress failed to pass a big climate law, at the time it was called Cap and Trade, he gave a speech where he said, if Congress doesn't act, I will. So it's been regulatory whiplash from Democrat and Republican presidents ever since.
Well, speaking of whiplash, is there a world where future president brings the endangerment finding back in another case of whiplash?
It's a big question. And depending on how a court rules once this is challenged, yes, in theory, a future president could restore the endangerment finding, but it would take a lot of time. It would take a long time to rebuild the scientific record, the legal record, and it would take even more time to turn that into a regulation to actually start to reduce emissions. So the reality is, it's easier to kill the endangerment finding than it is to build it back up.
Well, Lisa, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
We'll be right back.
Cash flow crunch? OnDeck's small business line of credit gives your business immediate access to funds, up to $100,000 right when you need it. Cover seasonal dips, manage payroll, restock inventory, or tackle unexpected expenses without missing a beat. With flexible draws, transparent pricing, and control over repayment, get funded quickly and confidently. Apply today at OnDeck.com. Funds could be available as soon as tomorrow. Depending on certain loan attributes, your business loan may be issued by OnDeck or Celtic Bank. OnDeck does not lend in North Dakota. All loans and amounts subject to lender approval.
Hi, I'm Claire Tennisgetter. I'm one of the many names you hear in the list of credits on The Daily every week. A big part of my job as a producer is talking to my colleagues, to New York Times reporters, to get their expertise on the news. But we also want to explore the human side of the news. And so another big part of my job is talking to people about how they're experiencing what's happening in the world. That can mean walking up to people on the street, making cold calls. It's spending months making sure we represent all sides of the story. Whether it's about what shapes our political identities or how we're coping with crises, we always feel like there's something to learn from these conversations. We often hear from listeners that these types of stories are what makes The Daily special, and we want to keep bringing them to you. We can't do that without subscriber support. If you haven't subscribed to The New York Times, you can do that at nytimes.com/subscribe. And thanks.
Here's what else you need to know today. On Wednesday, the Federal Reserve defied President Trump by keeping the interest rate at its current level, but faced a highly unusual level of dissent from its governing board. Two members of the board publicly disagreed with the decision something that has not happened in more than 20 years. Both dissenting governors were appointed by President Trump, who has repeatedly demanded that the Fed lower interest rates and has mocked Fed Chairman Jay Powell for failing to do so. And former Vice President Kamala Harris said that she will not run for governor of California next year, ending months of speculation about whether or not she would enter the race. Harris had been exploring a run for the state's top office since losing the presidential race against Donald Trump last fall. But friends said that she has left open the possibility of running for president for a third time in 2028. Today's episode was produced by Sydney Harper, Carlos Prieto, and Asta Chaturvedi. It was edited by Lexi Diao and Chris Haxel. Contains original music by Dan Powell, Elishaba Etube, and Pat McCusker, and was engineered by Alyssa Moxley. Our theme music is by Jim Brunberg and Ben Landsberg of Wonderly. That's it for the Daily. I'm Michael LeBar. See you tomorrow.
This podcast is supported by BetterHelp. Cold plunges, gratitude journals, screen detoxes. How do you know what actually works? With a 4.9 rating from 1.7 million client reviews, you're in good hands with BetterHelp, where you can talk with real licensed therapists, not AI. Wellness shouldn't be overwhelming, and therapists can help figure out what's best for you. And yeah, it might involve a screen detox. Visit betterhelp.com/thedaily for 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/thedaily.
From WSJ Tech News Briefing at 2:01 a.m. today.
How businesses connect with customers defines their brand. Sierra is the AI platform for building better, more human customer experiences. Fast answers, no canned responses, no hold music, no frustration. Visit Sierra.ai to learn more.
Welcome to Tech News Briefing. It's Friday, August 1st. I'm Belle Lynn for The Wall Street Journal. People now watch YouTube on TV sets more than on their phones or any other device, an average of more than 1 billion hours each day. WSJ reporter Ben Fritz tells us how YouTube came to dominate our TV screens and what that means for the future of content on YouTube. Then there's little debate that AI consumes massive amounts of power, and those demands are increasing exponentially. One potential way to address the problem: redesigning computer chips that power how AI actually runs. But first, YouTube started as a website to watch videos on PCs. But now it's a bona fide media juggernaut, and it's beating out Hollywood in the process. WSJ reporter Ben Fritz joins Patrick Coffey to discuss how YouTube overtook traditional media to become the most watched video provider on televisions in the US earlier this year.
Ben, YouTube became the most watched content distributor on TV this year. Would it be right to say that the gap between that platform and other big names like Disney seems likely to keep growing?
Yeah, the trend is just a bigger and bigger gap between YouTube and second place, which is currently Disney. And keep in mind, when we say Disney, we mean the ABC network, the Disney Channel, ESPN, Disney Plus, Hulu, everything that Disney offers for video. YouTube is beating them all combined, and the same is true for all other media companies as well as Netflix.
And 10 years ago, YouTube tried to enter the scripted drama arena with Cobra Kai. But at the time, at least, that approach didn't work. It was very telling to me that that show only became a hit when it moved to Netflix. What's different about YouTube's new ambitions for original scripted material?
I think the big reason Cobra Kai didn't work on YouTube is it was behind a paywall. It was just, you had to subscribe to this premium version of YouTube to watch it. And the vast majority of the YouTube audience are not people who want